Today, we are going to talk about e-cigarettes. This presentation was delivered and recorded by Carolyn Wilson, GASP coordinator. GASP stands for the Groton Alliance for Substance Use Prevention. GASP is the local prevention council serving Groton since 1999. It's important for you to know that this presentation was created by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, a trusted source for information on many topics, including e-cigarettes and tobacco. Along with this presentation, you may be asked to complete a learning and reflection activity. That activity was adapted from the talking points that accompany this presentation by the CDC. While unrelated to this presentation, it's important for you to know that GASP sponsors and conducts the Groton Youth Survey every 2 years and is expected to complete it in the spring of 2024. It is completely anonymous and cannot be traced back to you. The information from the survey is used for GASP evaluation and program development. If you are asked to take the survey, we appreciate your honest responses. And again, it is completely anonymous and cannot be used for any disciplinary purposes. Okay, let's get to the presentation. This is Know the Risks, Youth and E-Cigarettes. First, let's get a sense about what you know about e-cigarettes or vapes, and start with a true or false question. True or false? Some e-cigarettes are safe for youth. False. All e-cigarettes or vapes are unsafe for youth, and we'll talk about more today. Today's presentation will cover 4 main topics. First, we'll talk about what e-cigarettes or vapes are. Next, we'll talk about why they are dangerous to youth. Then, we'll look at the factors that lead to youth e-cigarette use in the first place. And finally, we'll talk about what you can do to address the urgent public health issue of youth e-cigarette use. But first, let's start with, what is an e-cigarette or vape? E-cigarettes are known by many different names. You've probably heard them called vapes, vape pens, e-cigs, or just Juul. There are also newer products on the market, such as Elf Bar. So no matter what you call it, it's still an e-cigarette. These are also called electronic nicotine delivery systems, ENDS. E-cigarettes are devices that heat liquids containing nicotine or other drugs, such as cannabis, into an aerosol that the user inhales. An aerosol is a suspension of fine, solid, or liquid particles in gas. E-cigarettes come in a lot of different shapes. Some e-cigarettes look like regular tobacco products, such as cigarettes. But in recent years, we've seen e-cigarettes that look like other things, including USB flash drives, pens, and other everyday items. Puff Bar, Vuse, Juul, and Smoke are examples of common e-cigarettes shaped like USB flash drives. It's important to note that in 2022, the most common type of device used by young people were disposable e-cigarettes. But regardless of what you call it, these are all e-cigarettes, and none of them are safe for young people to use. Let's do another knowledge check, true or false. E-cigarettes create a harmless water vapor. The answer is false. E-cigarettes allow the user to exhale clouds that are just not harmless water vapor. The tobacco industry prefers the term vapor because it implies it is harmless, but it is not harmless. E-cigarettes create an aerosol that can be harmful to your health. Examples of other aerosols are cleaning products, and cooking sprays. As a reminder, an aerosol is a suspension of fine solid or liquid particles in gas. Besides nicotine, e-cigarette aerosol can contain cancer-causing chemicals, heavy metals, and ultrafine particles that can be inhaled deeply into the lungs and hurt your body. And even though e-cigarette aerosol generally contains fewer chemicals than regular cigarettes, it does not mean it is safe. This applies to both people using e-cigarettes as well as people who may have been exposed to secondhand aerosol from other people using e-cigarettes. And by the way, those flavorings in e-cigarettes are not safe either. Scientists are still working to understand more fully the health effects of e-cigarette content when they are heated and then turned into an aerosol. Okay, thinking about what is in an e-cigarette, let's check to see what you already know. True or false? Most e-cigarettes contain nicotine. This is true. According to the CDC, e-cigarettes usually contain nicotine, which is the addictive drug in regular cigarettes and other tobacco products. That is especially important to understand because nicotine is highly addictive and can harm the adolescent brain, which continues to develop until around age 25. We'll talk more about that now. So now we know what e-cigarettes are and that they contain nicotine. So what? Why does this matter? Here you will see the dictionary definition of nicotine. We don't expect you to know what all of these things are, but it's important to have a basic understanding of what nicotine is before you can understand why using an e-cigarette is risky. Nicotine is a drug found in tobacco plants. Also, you should know that nicotine is the drug found in tobacco products that makes them addictive. That means that once someone uses it, their body will continue to want more. Some immediate effects of nicotine include an increased heart rate, altered brain chemistry, increased stress, and it affects all of parts of the body when inhaled. We've told you what nicotine is, but do you know that there's different types of nicotine? The pH scale measures how acidic or basic a solution is. Here's a little science. An acidic solution has a high concentration of hydrogen ions, greater than that of pure water. Examples of acidic items include lemons, soda, and batteries. A basic solution has a low hydrogen concentration, less than that of pure water. Examples of basic or alkaline solutions include baking soda, toothpaste, and eggs. So why are we showing you this? Well, pH matters when it comes to how harsh feeling nicotine is on one's body, particularly one's throat when nicotine is being inhaled. Most nicotine in cigarettes and some e-cigarettes is what we call free base nicotine, which means it's an alkaline on the pH scale. Since free base nicotine is an alkaline, it has a harsh feeling on your throat. Nicotine salts are considered an acid and are less harsh feeling on your throat. This is a particular concern for young people because it allows for nicotine to be used more easily, which increases the likelihood of trying an e-cigarette and getting hooked. Another type of nicotine is synthetic nicotine, which is made in a lab rather than derived from the tobacco plant. Examples of e-cigarettes that are made with synthetic nicotine include Puff Bar and Elf Bar. It does not matter if the nicotine comes from tobacco plants or made in the lab. Nicotine is addictive and can harm the developing brain. Now that we've learned about the risks of nicotine, let's talk about why that matters for your health. In this section, we'll talk about a variety of risks from e-cigarette use. Let's start with the brain. To check in again, true or false? Nicotine harms brain development. The answer is true. Remember, e-cigarettes usually contain nicotine, which is highly addictive and can harm brain development. Important growth is happening in your brain and will continue to happen until you're about 25 years old. The brain is the last organ in the human body to develop fully. Exposing the brain to nicotine while in its important developmental phase can cause addiction and harm the brain. Why? Think about it like this. Each time a new memory is created or a new skill is learned, stronger connections, or synapses, are built between brain cells. Nicotine changes the way these connections or synapses are formed, which can harm the parts of the brain that control attention and learning. For youth, any exposure to nicotine is unsafe. Putting nicotine in the body is dangerously addictive, and it can also prime the brain for addiction to other tobacco products or other drugs, like cocaine. Let's talk about addiction. Youth are especially sensitive to nicotine's addictive effects because their brains are still developing, and this makes it easier to get hooked. The use of nicotine can rewire a youth's brain to become easily more addicted to other drugs. Nicotine is quickly absorbed into the body and goes directly to the brain. Nicotine activates the area of the brain that makes a person feel satisfied and happy. Nicotine addiction can look different from person to person. Some signs of nicotine addiction include cravings or feeling the need to use a tobacco or a vaping device, going out of the way to get tobacco or a vaping device, feeling anxious or irritable when you want to use tobacco or a vaping device but can't because you're in school, or continuing to use tobacco or vaping devices because you find it hard to stop. As a reminder, e-cigarettes usually contain nicotine. Now we're going to watch a video from the Food and Drug Administration's My Vaping Mistake, How It Became Addiction.
Make sure that I take off all of my meat.
Microwavable mac and cheese.
I woke up craving it.
It's all that's on my mind.
I couldn't control my own decisions anymore.
I was screaming, yelling.
I was not myself at all.
Vaping was just constantly veering me towards destruction.
I started dating a guy within the friend group. He handed me his vape and he was like, go ahead and take a hit. I thought it was something that was going to help me be more accepted or help people admire me more. And it definitely did not do that.
I didn't think it was a problem.
In the car, absent-mindedly vaping on my way to school.
Stuck in your room, vaping by yourself.
It's just a hunger that you can't please. And then within a few weeks, I was addicted, so.
For years, I was very passionate about skateboarding and making skateboard videos. I found myself selling all my skateboards and buying vapes with that money. I don't have those vapes anymore, so that money's gone. I don't have skateboards, I don't have vapes. It leaves you with nothing.
I was constantly lying to my mom, saying, Mom, I need some money for food. Mom, I need some money for gas. But I would really just use that money to fuel my addiction.
I was so addicted that I just had to have another hit, no matter what I had felt like previously.
Shakes in my hands.
Nicotine withdrawal headaches every morning when I woke up.
If I hadn't vaped for 3 hours, I was very, very mad. Mood swings off the charts, always arguing with my parents.
I wasn't focused on the I get caught, I get in trouble. I was focused on the they're gonna take it away and I'm addicted to it and I can't have it taken away.
One time I left my vape in my car and someone had stole it. I threw a temper tantrum, I was screaming, yelling. My friends said that they were scared to drive in the car with me because I was so mad. They were like, you have a real problem with this.
I love singing, and vaping was affecting my ability to do that. I made the commitment to quit vaping. I threw my vape away, and 2 days into me quitting, I was back buying another vape. And that was really the moment that I realized I wasn't as in control as I thought I was.
Right after practice, I had my jersey on. I hadn't even taken off my pads yet. Brought the vape up to my mouth, and I just looked at myself, and I was like, what am I doing? I can't do this anymore. I realized that it's just taking everything away from me.
Choosing to quit vaping was making the choice to take care of myself, to have hope for my future again.
I love DJing, I love music.
When I quit, freedom was definitely the biggest thing that I felt.
Vaping affected my schoolwork.
My will to be healthy.
My self-worth.
It took control of me.
Now that I am over it, it makes you feel like you can do anything. Make sure that
When a person is dependent on or addicted to nicotine and stops using it, their body and brain have to get used to not having nicotine. This can result in temporary symptoms of nicotine withdrawal. Nicotine withdrawal symptoms include irritability, restlessness, feeling anxious, depressed, having trouble sleeping, problems concentrating, and craving nicotine. People may keep using tobacco products to help relieve these symptoms. Youth may turn to vaping to try to deal with stress or anxiety, creating a cycle of nicotine dependence. But nicotine addiction can be a source of stress. What may start as social experimentation can become addiction. The most common reason US middle and high school students give for trying an e-cigarette is a friend used one. The most common reason youth give for continuing to use e-cigarettes is, I am feeling anxious, stressed, or depressed. Youth e-cigarette and cigarette use have been associated with mental health symptoms such as depression. Now we're going to watch the Food and Drug Administration's Real Cost campaign, My Vaping Mistake, How It Affected My Mental Health.
Vaping got inside my head. Without it, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I was an entirely different person.
It was harder for me to focus when I was vaping. My grades dropped. There's a lot more negatives and downfalls than people would think.
There's a difference between what I deserve and what I want. I feel like everyone deserves forgiveness. As a 14-year-old, I've been through a decent amount of stuff.
I probably struggle the most with mental health. I was 13 when I started vaping. I was so overwhelmed and really stressed out, and so I looked to vaping as a way to escape that, and it didn't do that for me.
I have an anxiety thing. I start getting really overwhelmed. It feels better to be angry because when I feel sad, I feel weak. People were telling me, oh yeah, it can help with your anxiety. I'm like, really? It was exactly the opposite of what I expected. Brought more anxiety, brought more anger, and brought more sadness.
I would bring my vape to school before I would go to class. I would use it. I always had it in my pocket too. Vaping is really manipulative because in the long run, it's tearing you apart. Tearing apart your health, tearing apart your relationships with family, friends. It's just a downward spiral. Once you get addicted, it made me 10 times more paranoid because I was always so scared of being caught or being judged.
It got into my brain. I got home from school. What did I do? Oh, well, I hit my vape. I got home from the gym. I hit my vape. I'm about to go to bed. What do? I hit my vape. Every single day, every single night. And one night, I had left mine at a friend's house. So I started freaking out. Texting people, hey, dude, do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? I got money. Can someone give this to me? Like, who can give me more? I had another friend nonstop calling me, basically. When I finally answered the phone, I just popped off on them. I was cussing at them, I was yelling at them. And the reason why they were calling me was because a family member had just passed away and they needed to talk to me about it. I really hurt that friend. And with how much that person meant to me, I looked at myself and I said, what have I become?
When I think back to before I ever vaped, it was a lot more bubbly, a lot happier and outgoing. And then as soon as I vaped, that all went away. And then I became a very one-sided person. That side was all the anger, anxiety, and panic that comes with vaping. And I was too afraid to address my own emotions, when really it's okay to open up and not rely on vaping.
When it latches on it, you don't know it's there. Vaping is like a ghost. It haunts you, it catches on to you. When I really started to notice things, it was already way too late. I was so far into it. I was making problems for myself that weren't even there. Didn't even make any sense. And then when someone asked me, what's wrong? No answer.
The biggest thing I was robbed of was my childhood friendships. I chose vaping over them. I only cared about myself and I didn't care what I did to others because I was just so wrapped up in my own thoughts. It's like a toxic relationship with vaping.
I've been trying to journal. If I ever feel something, just write it all out instead of punch it all out or, I don't know, yell it all out. It's better than that. I bike. That is definitely an outlet. I be going super fast down the streets and popping it up, swerving around. It tires me out, calms me down. That will always be an outlet for me.
One thing I've found really peaceful is crafting. I love to do DIYs and I like to go out for pottery with my friends. I also like to go axe throwing. That's a good way to get out your anger rather than taking it out on a little stick.
The fact that I was able to overcome an addiction at how young I am, I feel successful. I want to come out of high school feeling I put in good work and I did a good job. I just want to feel proud of myself. I just want to feel proud of myself.
Another risk in using e-cigarettes that many youth who use them are more likely to go on to smoke cigarettes, even if they think they never will. Use of 2 or more tobacco products is common among middle and high school youth. Many youth who use e-cigarettes also may smoke cigarettes. The best thing to do to protect your health is to ensure you're not going to use any tobacco product at all. No matter how it's delivered, whether it be an e-cigarette or a cigarette, nicotine is harmful to your health. And if that isn't scary enough, children and adults have been poisoned by swallowing, breathing, or absorbing e-cigarette liquid through skin or eyes. Just look at the increase in calls to poison control centers across the country, where people call for help when they've been exposed to poisons or other harmful things. In 2021, over 5,000 calls came from e-cigarette devices and liquid nicotine. In 2022, poison control centers received more than 6,700 calls. Pets can also experience nicotine poisoning by drinking nicotine refill liquid, chewing on e-cigarette nicotine refill canisters, or chewing on the devices themselves. Signs of nicotine poisoning in pets include the following: vomiting, unsteadiness, drooling, tiredness, fast heart rate, shaking, weakness, seizures, and death. Not only are e-cigarettes not safe for youth, but they pose a significant environmental threat. E-cigarette waste introduces plastic, nicotine salts, heavy metals, lead, mercury, and flammable lithium-ion batteries into waterways, soil, and to wildlife. E-cigarette waste is not biodegradable, and when left on the streets, eventually breaks down into microplastics and chemicals that flow into storm drains to pollute waterways and wildlife. So what leads to e-cigarette use among youth? Simply, youth are exposed to e-cigarette advertising. And these messages come in many forms, whether it's store signs, television ads, movies, the internet, social media ads, magazines with cool images, or newspapers. It's all around you. And Big Tobacco is one of the main contributors. They spent $8.2 billion in the year 2019 on marketing their products. E-cigarette ads reach nearly 4 in 5 middle and high school students, and youth exposure to these ads has increased in recent years. E-cigarette companies are targeting young people and are making a lot of money off of it. Here are a few examples of how they are doing it. E-cigarette marketing ads are using themes including sexual content, independence, rebellion, and celebrity figures to appeal to youth and young adults. In addition to advertising, we also know that flavors influence youth use. Most youth who use e-cigarettes are doing so because of the appeal of flavors, and very few of them don't use flavors. Among youth who currently used e-cigarettes in 2022, almost 85% used flavored e-cigarettes, including 85% of high school and 81% of middle school users. Overall, the most commonly used flavor types were fruit, candy, desserts or other sweets, mint, and menthol. Let's do another knowledge check. True or false? The tobacco industry can sell any type of flavor or e-cigarette they wish. The answer is false. The Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, has the authority to regulate all tobacco products, including e-cigarettes. As of May 2023, the FDA has authorized 23 tobacco-flavored e-cigarette products and devices, which are the only e-cigarettes that currently may be lawfully sold or distributed in the US. You may have heard about the Tobacco 21 law. In order to purchase e-cigarettes, you must be 21 years old. It is illegal for retailers to sell any tobacco products to anyone under 21. And according to current Connecticut state law, all tobacco and vaping purchases require an ID check. So finally, what can you do about the problem of e-cigarettes? So it's important for you to know that your school is a drug-free school zone, and you cannot use any substances at school, including tobacco and vaping devices. What's important now is for you to work as a school community to keep your school environment a healthy place to learn and work. If you or someone you know is struggling to quit e-cigarettes, there are free resources available. Visit Quit Vaping, Smoke Free Teen, or This Is Quitting from the Truth Initiative to learn more. You can always talk with your doctor as well. Here's another video from the Food and Drug Administration's The Real Cost, My Vaping Mistake, and How It Impacted My Sports Performance.
Hey, what's up? It's Logan.
Guys, it's Isaac.
It's Max.
It's Gabby, and I have something really important to tell you guys. I had a sore throat that was so intense that it felt like I was swallowing glass.
I kept getting more headaches.
I felt awful.
I literally felt like I was gonna black out or pass out from a heart attack.
My lungs felt like I couldn't breathe as good.
And it was the scariest thing that I've gone through.
I was 17 and I thought I was dying.
My name's Isaac, and I started vaping 3 years ago.
My name is Max. I started vaping when I was 14.
My name is Logan. I'm 14 years old, and I started vaping about a year ago.
My name is Gabriella. I started vaping 2 years ago. All throughout high school and middle school, I was an athlete. I used to play volleyball and softball. Knowing that I was a part of something like that made me feel included or like special.
I really enjoy sports because it's a way for me to be surrounded by friends and people who care about me.
Football was always such a big part of my life. Growing up as a kid, I used to play in the front yard with my dad and transferred into high school ball, which could have transferred into college ball.
When I first started vaping, I didn't think that I would change so drastically just like after a month. At the beginning, I felt fine, but then a few months in, I started feeling very sick. I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't even want to go to my practices anymore.
I played baseball. Vaping made it harder to play. As an athlete, you have to focus. Having something that you're addicted to, it takes away from that focus. My addiction actually got me suspended from school.
I was at the gym one day and I walked out and it felt like someone put a 500-pound weight on my chest.
I definitely lost a sense of self-control. I've had times where I was like, I worked hard for this and now it's all gone.
Once I started vaping, I wasn't as fast, I wasn't as coordinated. I just lost the passion for it a little bit.
I was at this point in life where I had this tremendous opportunity to play college ball. It was such a hard time in my life, not knowing what decision to make. That's when I would pull out the vape and hit it. Vaping for me, though, negatively impacted my performance.
I felt like I wasn't as good as I once was. I liked having that ability to make a difference for a team. I felt like I didn't have much to offer anymore, that I was kind of just there.
Baseball is my true love, and I gave in to the addiction and it took over.
Now I'm realizing what repercussions I'm gonna have to go through for the rest of my life.
Vaping comes with consequences.
If I could go back and like take it all back, I 100% would.
It really upsets me to think that if I wouldn't have started vaping, where I could be at right now. I'd probably be in the best shape of my life if I wouldn't have started vaping. I have to live with what it did to me to this day. The only way for it to get better and for me to not hurt anymore was to quit.
I quit vaping.
Overall, I'm a lot happier. I still have stressful days, but I'm extremely happy with where I'm at in life.
My addiction to vaping, it's been broken. We only can go up from here.
Hey, what's up? It's Logan.
Don't forget the most important takeaway from this presentation. There is no safe tobacco product, including e-cigarettes. This concludes the presentation. And again, I want to say thank you for your time and attention and remind you that if you want to learn more about GASP, please visit www.grotonprevents.org or find us on socials at groton_prevents. Thank you so much for your attention, and we wish you all the best.